morning, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you are all doing well. So this video right here is designed to help you get aligned with what we can expect in the coming sessions. All right, mad love and respect for anyone passing through to the channel and you are new. Here is what I expect Bitcoin to do later on. Now listen, Bitcoin has taken a phenomenal dive to the downside and has broken key moving averages and has done a great job of holding in and around this green vector candle. Just look at the despicable nature of Mr. Market Maker, where he brings it so close towards the full recovery of the green vector candle. If I mark that off, look left, look at the precision. It's despicable. Actually despicable that they brought it down so close, recovered the green vector candle fully, and then they've bounced away from that point. Again, if Bitcoin breaks beyond this zone, then we are likely to come into these areas right here. Now, the word on the street says that MicroStrategy will get a margin call at 21,000. So that takes us into this zone right here, okay? Which happens to sit in the side of the vector candles, okay? As you can see right there. Now on the daily time frame, these are the nearest 21,000 is the nearest pool of liquidity in terms of vectors on the daily time frame. There are vector candles within this range right here, ladies and gentlemen, no doubt. Okay, but notable candlesticks are on the daily time frame right here. Okay, now let's make the assumption that Bitcoin does decide to reverse back up. Okay, how long will it move up for? Well, what we've got to understand is this. What will they be moving back into? Okay, if you look at the high block itself, ladies and gentlemen, and especially last night, I took an image and shared it into the Discord and called it the charitable attempt by Mr. Market Maker. $54 billion worth of shorts opened, and you can see that we have a disparity of 192 in longs and, of course, 2,457 short liquidations. Okay, that number has changed now. We've got 2,227 shorts against 515 longs in this current zone. What you've got to try and be aware of is this, guys, okay, is the market is going to slowly move back up. That's what we're waiting for in principle. And the reason it's going to move slowly back up is because they don't want to scare off all the short sellers to closing their positions. They want to give them the idea that price is going to continue lower. Look at where the red dots are. These red dots right here, ladies and gentlemen, as you can see, are where the market maker is forcing retail traders to believe that this zone right here is going to continue price to the downside. But if you notice, every time they do go down, they bring it back up again and liquidate those shorts. So what's happening is the short sellers are having a hard time trying to stay with their narrative that price is going to continue to go down. Look at every drop down, they get liquidated. Okay, every drop down, they're getting liquidated. Now, longs are getting liquidated at the same time. Look, all the guys that believe that this is the attempt by Bitcoin to move up are now getting liquidated on the way back down again. So right now, what is actually happening is the market maker in principle is in essence testing everyone's attempt at believing that this is the low, okay, or this is going to set up price to continue to go down lower. Okay, now we had a massive sell-off yesterday on the S&P and, of course, the NASDAQ, okay? The S&P itself dropped more than 3%, and that is deemed as a distribution day where traders are physically getting rid of stock. They're closing positions, running for cover, and that led to the S&P dropping down 3.2%, okay? 2-3 days ago, okay, going into last week, the NASDAQ and the S&P, well, the S&P itself dropped 3.68%, okay? So we've had 2 really big days worth of selling by the S&P 500. Could we be in line for a third attempt? Okay. So in front of you, there are a couple of levels. All right. Now, these levels right here were drawn off on the 30th of April. Now, this was a video that I shared to the patrons of the channel where I had projected out the long-term move of Bitcoin and the S&P on the basis that they were correlated together and that they would move together. Okay. I'm going to play that video to you right now, just so you can understand my logic as to why, if we were going to see the S&P drop, how likely and how much would Bitcoin follow. Okay, so here's that video. I'm putting it out there. Based on us actually looking into the S&P and understanding the behavior of how the S&P and Bitcoin being correlated, I'm going to make the claim now. Looking on the 22-hour chart of the S&P 500, I can see that we've got these two vector candle ranges right here. Okay. Now the S&P would need to drop 8% to come back into these points, which would be consistent with them actually coming into, let me move this, coming into the 800 EMA. Now here's the truth. An 8% drop on Bitcoin. Not to say it's going to drop straight away 8%, but if we assume from this point and go down 8%, that will take Bitcoin to this zone right here. All right. So if I bring up that, what was it exactly? 8.24% Bitcoin. If it was to follow exactly the same thing, we would see 8.24 in that zone. Okay. What do you think they're doing on this chart, ladies and gentlemen? They're smacking bang into that vector point right there. We've been talking about it. 800 EMA, vector candle point. Let's make the assumption that by the time the FOMC comes into play and whatever's discussed on the FOMC, Bitcoin in principle should finalize at that point on the idea that price follows the S&P. So, ladies and gentlemen, we look at the S&P right now and you can see it's already worked its way into that zone. Okay? Roughly there or thereabouts, it's about 4.5% drop. Okay? From this point to here. It's taken half of the range so far. Now, of course, prior to this drop, ladies and gentlemen, from this point right here, we had seen a drop and then a continuation back up. So stop hunt low, rise, follow through to the downside. Okay. At the same token, Bitcoin has just completely ripped the ranges and gone lower, and it literally ate all the liquidity at this wick right here and then continued even lower. So when you're looking for a direction, understanding what the S&P is going to do in relation to Bitcoin is going to help you work out where the sentiment is. Now, listen, what I'm starting to notice is this. Bitcoin moves aggressively. The S&P also moves aggressively, but it's a little bit more controlled, okay? Because we're talking about physical stock being sold, okay? Bitcoin, in principle, is all about futures markets. It's all about the liquidation points that they can move towards. Okay, that's all they're interested in. There is $50 billion plus of short liquidations in this zone. This is money that has been given away by the exchanges to facilitate the retail traders' intention of opening shorts. Okay, what I'm trying to convey to you guys is this, that the correlation between Bitcoin and the S&P, given that it is positively correlated, are we going to see some form of recovery in Bitcoin in the near term? That recovery could send Bitcoin up just a little bit more, even to try and take the 800 EMA on this current time frame right now, which is the daily time frame. Okay, people are now worried about if Bitcoin is going to continue down lower. I know MicroStrategy is worrying if Bitcoin is going to move down lower, and of course that eliminates the whole concept on the idea that every time MicroStrategy buys, Bitcoin drops. Well, look at the situation we're in right now. Okay. MicroStrategy's margin call is at 21,000. We're not hearing anything about them actually buying unless they've actually declared they're buying up more Bitcoin. Okay, I know they put up, there was a loan that they applied for, which they may be using to obviously reduce the chances of their margin call being hit. But what I'm trying to say to you guys is this. It's always going to be the flow of liquidity that determines where Bitcoin ends up. Okay? Which is why they come back to the vectors, they come back to the wicks. Now, moving forward, I'm expecting some form of rally recovery by the S&P. It's usually what happens in the markets. If we do get another event like yesterday, now yesterday, in the principle of the hybrid, we would anticipate that Monday was the false move. So principle would say that Tuesday is going to tell us if it is a false move. And Tuesday, I'm talking about today at 2 p.m. UK time for the New York session. So if you haven't already subscribed, ladies and gentlemen, make sure you do. Hit that bell so you get notified about me going live at that point in time. We need to bring things back into the fray, ladies and gentlemen. Everyone is scared. Everyone is fearful. This is where the opportunity resides. Okay? Now, that's just not a token for you to just start buying up. Now, if you're a holder, different story. Bitcoin is cheaper for you. As a holder, you will always want to be buying at discount. You don't want to be buying at premium. Discount. That is your goal. Right now, we are testing the narrative that they're going to hold this range. So Bitcoin's doing a good job of staying in this zone. Okay? The only way you're going to understand if Bitcoin is going to break down is if you go into the smaller time frames and understand the behavior of how they move in and around the moving averages on smaller time frames. Okay? Now, some of you may be aware of this, but what do we always say? Whenever price aggressively moves away from the psychological ranges, we make the assumption that at some point in the week, they may come back towards it. Okay? Stick with me on this one. Let's assume that this is the start of a potential W formation on the smaller time frames. Remember, it's fractal, ladies and gentlemen. These plays, patterns, and cycles on the smaller time frames lead up into the bigger time frame. Okay? Let's assume that Bitcoin holds this range, comes back up. Okay? How far will it come back up? Will it hit the 800 EMA? Will it trade back into the psychological ranges? From this point right here, ladies and gentlemen, let's assume that Bitcoin stalls in and around the 33 range, then starts to come back down. On the attempt of it coming back down, ladies and gentlemen, the moving averages themselves would either be in this area right here. Okay, so they could be here. All right, 200 EMA would be like so. And we will know exactly where we stand. The 800 would be in this zone. It's this boxed area right here where we would know if they are going to continue lower. Why? Because they would have exhausted the retracement back up. They would have hit key notable areas. And we would get information about whether they're going to continue higher. Because if they won't or can't get back up above this week's psychological ranges towards the end of this week, then we will then understand that Bitcoin is likely to continue down lower. Okay? So Tuesday, Wednesday, and Thursdays are the most important days of the week where the proof of the move is going to be solidified. If they've moved aggressively away from the psychological ranges at the start of the week, then there is a good indication that at some point during this week, we may see Bitcoin move back up. Okay? It all depends on what it does in this zone. All right? New York today could come through and completely rip price back down to the downside. Because we don't know what's going to happen, ladies and gentlemen. We go by what we see happening now. All right? Something that could put a spanner in the works, ladies and gentlemen, is the CPI. The results for the CPI that are coming out tomorrow at 1:30 UK time GMT. That is going to be the determining factor as to whether or not dollar yen is going to continue down lower or if it's going to continue back up. If the CPI results come out and it shows that inflation isn't as bad as it is, that's good news for us. Because then that would mean the dominance of the US dollar is now going to come to a halt. That means they're just going to end up getting rid of their positions. You can see that dollar yen is just behaving in such a mad way. And you can see that we are at climatic points in the chart. Okay? The only way Bitcoin can move up is if dollar drops. because that's where the dominance resides right now. Okay? Now, I hope that puts things into perspective for you, ladies and gentlemen. If you are new to the channel, mad love and respect. I do hope it does start to make sense for you. If you haven't done so already, make your way over to the Traders Reality website, tradersreality.com, where you can download these indicators and you can get involved in understanding what to expect in the masterclass sessions that are available on the Patreon. Check it out. But what I'm trying to convey to you is this, guys. This game is all about liquidity flow. They are not interested in people's opinions of price. They are interested in when people commit their money on the belief of price being where it should be or where it's likely to end up. The sooner you understand that price is irrelevant to the market maker and it's only relevant based on how much money is present at that price point, your trading will take a different turn. You won't be subject to the idea of, oh, Bitcoin needs to be above 20,000, 10,000, 50,000. You'll come away from that narrative. You'll be then thinking about, well, how many positions are likely to be closed if Bitcoin moves back up? What liquidations are going to be absorbed if Bitcoin does move back up towards the 36 zone? Yeah? I will check in with you guys later on today, 2 p.m. GMT. Mad love and respect to you. Peace.